마태복음 20장, Gospel Matthew chapter 20 verse 1 to 16. This is 16 verses. It's very long, right? But this good to know. It's a whole story. So let's read it. I'm going to read in Korean. 하늘나라는 자기 포도원에서 일할 일꾼을 고용하려고 이른 아침에 집을 나선 어떤 포도 주인과 같다. 그 주인은 하루 품삯으로 한 데나리온을 주기로 일꾼들을 포도원으로 보냈다. 오전 9시쯤 돼 그가 나가보니 시장에 빈둥거리는 사람들이 있었다. 그는 그들에게 너희도 내 포도원에 가서 일하라. 적당한 품삯을 주겠다라고 했다. 그래서 그들도 포도원으로 들어갔다. 그 사람은 12시와 오후 3시쯤에도 다시 나가 또 그렇게 했다. 그리고 오후 5시쯤 다시 나가보니 아직도 빈둥거리며 서 있는 사람들이 있었다. 그는 왜 하루 종일 하는 일 없이 여기서 빈둥거리고 있느냐 하고 물었다. 그들은 아무도 일자를 주지 않았습니다 라고 대답했다. 주인이 그들에게 말했다. 너희도 내 포도원에 와서 일하라. 날이 저물자 포도원 주인이 관리인에게 말했다. 일꾼들을 불러 품삯을 지불하여라. 맨 나중에 고용된 사람부터 시작해서 맨 처음 고용된 사람까지 그 순서대로 주어라. 오후 5시에 고용된 일꾼들이 와서 각각 한 데나리온씩 받았다. 맨 처음 고용된 일꾼들이 와서는 자기들이 더 많이 받으리라고 기대했다. 그러나 각 사람이 똑같이 한 데나리온씩 받았다. 그들은 품삯을 받고 포도원 주인을 향해 불평했다. 나중에 고용된 일꾼들은 고작 1시간밖에 일하지 않았습니다. 그런데 하루 종일 뙤약볕에서 고되게 일한 우리와 똑같은 일당을 주시다니요. 그러자 포도원 주인이 일꾼 중 하나에게 대답했다. 여보게 친구, 나는 자네에게 잘못한 것이 없네. 자네가 처음에 한 데나리온을 받고 일하겠다고 하지 않았나? 그러니 자네 일당이나 받아가게. 나중에 온 일꾼에게 자네와 똑같이 주는 것이 내 뜻이네. 내가 내 것을 내 뜻대로 하는 것이 정당하지 않은가? 아니면 내가 선한 것이 자네 눈에 거슬리는가? 이처럼 처음 된 사람이 나중 된 사람이 먼저 되고 먼저 된 사람이 나중 될 것이다. 아멘. 하나님 말씀입니다. This is the book of Matthew. This passage is very famous, right? The name is of the workers on the vineyard. Jesus, he talks about the vineyard, the owner of the vineyard, and so many workers, like daily workers. When I read these passages, I remember that the back in the last August, I moved to Texas from Georgia. And I drove the U-Haul truck, the biggest size, the longest one. And I had one night in my friend's house in the Frisco. And the next day is the move-in day. So I contacted the landlords and I'll go to there by 9 o'clock. So I drove the U-Haul from the Frisco to McKinney. And on the way, there's a main street and there's so many Hispanic friends who needs work. So they raised their hands and called me, hey, because they saw that I was driving the U-Haul truck. And so they thought I might need some help and they want me to pay for daily wages. So that's pretty much the same. Today, the Jesus, he talks about this parable that, hey, there's a owner of the vineyard and he went to the market because he needed a daily workers, and he saw so many people in the early morning. But this is Jews' time. Modern times, early morning means that 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's why I read it in Korean that 6시. And basically, in the concept of daily work in early Jews in the first century, they thought working a day means 12 hours. So working from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in afternoon, pretty much the evening. So the 12 o'clock. So let's check the verses. Jesus, he want to explain the heaven. So just simply, you guys get to understand that when God says heaven, it means that God. Heaven means God. It's not just a place where we're going to, but he would like to explain who God is through this parable. That's why he explained this. So heaven is like this. So God is like this. God is like the owner of the vineyard today, the passages. So he's he came to the market because he needed some help. He needed workers. So Jesus, he intentionally wants to explain who God is, right? So let's focus this. But there's some little bit, 선입견 or stereotype or presuppositions. When I read the Bible, this passage before, this parable, I also want to focus some conflict from that worker and who came early and who came late to the vineyard. So I always focus that conflictions and complain, hey God. And I was thinking about something like, hey, it's not fair, right? Because a guy worked 12 hours, but got only one chip, one denarius. But the other ones, he worked only 1 hour. It's not fair. But in the eyes of God, that's fair. That's what I learned from the church. Because I was born and raised from the Christian family and from the church. I'm familiar with the message from that passages. But when I prepared today's message on the last week, I think God tells me something different messages. Like not something wrong and right. That is good message, but I want to focus a little bit different perspective. What is this? How God figures. It looks like pretty much the same messages, but it's not. Jesus, he wants to say who God is first. God is like owner of the vineyard. Let's see. He came to the market at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock and at noon, right? And 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. How many times? 5 times. Jesus said that, hey God, hey, you know what? Your God and my God. He came to market because he needs worker. How many times? 5 times. And every single verse when Jesus say he needs workers and day, it means that plural. It is like, okay, there's no strawberry picking on this area, as I know. But when we live in Georgia all together, right? You live in Georgia, Macon, Atlanta, and we live in Macon, right? And then during the spring, on summer, we went to strawberry picking, right? And see the size of the farm. The big farm, how many workers in it? More, a lot. If it's a small size, just one is enough. 2 is enough, 3 is enough, right? But Jesus said that so many people, he needed it. How many times? 5 times. It says that he is a rich man, right? The owner of the vineyard, oh God, he is super rich. It means that compared to the daily worker and vineyard owner, the people in the market, like us, we need definitely help and daily support. But God, he is enough to welcome so many people, even so many times. This is God. Wow. Jesus, he wants to say that, hey, God, our God is huge, big, really good, really, really good, more than you thought. He's big enough to provide you. Wow, this is God's character. He's God. He's always more than us. He's always better than us. Jesus wants to say that God is not like you. He's big, He's wide, He's deep, He's tall, He's really big. But there's some problem between the people. Jesus said that the last one who came to the vineyard at 5 o'clock, he received 1 denarius. And then later, the people who came early at the 6 o'clock, they also get their own wages. And then they start to complain. What this means? They want to figure out, wow, I worked more than them, but why do I have less? But Jesus said, the vineyard owner, he gave you as much as he was supposed to give you. And hey, workers, you received it as much as you are supposed to receive. That's what we already talked. What's wrong? Are you complaining that the merciful of my character, the vineyard? This is the passage. So, through the message, today's text, I want you guys to remember just 3 points. Number 1, this. 하나님의 은혜는 the grace of God is always ready. 하나님의 은혜는 항상 준비되어 있다는 거예요. 무엇이냐면은 하나님의 은혜는 오늘 이 포도원의 비유에서 말하는 것처럼 항상 준비되어 있어요. 우리는 포도원에서 일한 일꾼이라면은 어떨 때는 아침 새벽에, 어떨 때는 오후에 일할 시간이 계속 줄어들고 있죠. 아침 6시? 하루 종일 일할 수 있겠구나. 돈은 많이 벌겠구나. 자, 오후 5시. 오늘 하루가 다 지나갔는데 내가 일할 시간이 없겠구나. 그런데 하나님은 동일하게 그들을 다 불러주셔서 은혜를 주시는 거예요. 그들에게 일할 수 있는 기회를 주시는 거예요. It means that He is ready to give them out. He's rich. You know how many workers they needed? I don't know how many people the vineyard, the owner, he needed the worker to work for his vineyard, to harvest the grapes and make wines. But he comes to market again and again. It means that I have enough to give you. It's not only in the early morning. It means that He has no limit. 하나님은 한계가 없는 분이에요. 우리가 봤을 때, yeah, that's enough. That's enough. But He said, welcome, let's go. That's fine. Do you need a job? Come on. Do you need a job? Come on. This is character of God. He is ready to pour out His grace upon you every day. It means that, why don't you ask? Why don't you ask? 오늘 말씀에서 기억해야 될 것이 무엇이냐면은 하나님께서 주실 은혜가 늘 준비되어 있는데 우리가 만약에 그 마켓에 없다면은 그 시장이 없었다면은 이 기회를 받을 수 있을까요? He is ready to give out, but we were not there. It means that we have no opportunity. So we have to come to God. We have to come to the community of the believers and the faithful people. And as you said, 교회에 와서 함께 예배하고 준비된 은혜를 받는 거예요. 집에서 여러분이 기도하시면서 그곳을 교회가 되게, 여러분의 삶, 직장, 일하는 곳, 가정에서 친구들 만나는 그곳에서 하나님을 인정하고, 하나님, God, I confess you are the Lord in between this and me and us. Please present this place and be the Lord of God here. Then we are ready to receive your grace. 하나님의 은혜는 언제나 준비되어 있습니다. 그러니까 여러분 하나님께 구하십시오. Ask. 제가 이 교회를 처음 시작하면서 이런 얘기를 했습니다. 교회를 세워갈 때 우리가 가장 필요한 것이 무엇인가? What do you need? as of the beginning of build the church, start the church, we need His grace. Then who's gonna receiver of the grace? Who has heart of humble. Come to God. God, I need you. I need you. 자, 이 준비된 은혜를 받은 사람들의 특징이 있었습니다. 무엇이냐면 바로 일자리가 필요해서, 은혜가 필요해서 그 주인이 가는 곳에 가서 기다리고 있었다는 거예요. 사실 이것이 잘했다 못했다가 아니에요. 그냥 필요하기 때문에 구하러 가는 거예요. 여러분, 하나님의 은혜가 필요하십니까? If you need His grace and blessing, come to Him. And His blessing, unending, no limit grace is for yours. 두 번째로, 하나님은 우리를 어떻게 하시는가? 조건적으로 선택하지 않으십니다. He does not select you conditionally. He picked you in any unconditional heart. 하나님께서 오늘 우리를 은혜로 불러주신 것 아주 감사한 얘기인데 이 본문에서 한번 보면 이렇습니다. Based on my past experience, when I saw the Hispanic people right on the way when I'm driving the U-Haul truck, and I was Kevin, you know Kevin, right? And then I asked Kevin, hey, Kevin, they're all good at, right? They're good at the working and the laboring, the loading and packing, the moving, right? And then he said, not really. Oh, why? Because they need only money. But based on my experience, when I was in California back in 2010, I was helping my church family for their movings, but he hired a local Hispanic people. There was a huge impression because I and two other college guys, like I was in 26, 7, very energetic. We lifted a big couch with the 3 people, but it was super heavy, so we could not really carry on. But at the moment, the Hispanic man came, and he just lifted it himself on the shoulder, and he carried from the first floor to second floor.
Oh wow!
Wow! 이래서 돈을 쓰는구나. That's why we paid money, right? So I asked him, 그 집사님, how did you know they are really good at? So he said, I asked to a manager and a person, hey, we are moving. I need people who are good at, helping the moving work. So they selected certain people. But when I saw them very first and they came, they were very short and I don't think we can do it.
Yeah.
And we just blamed, hey, 집사님, 왜 돈을 쓰셨어요? 차에 저희 맛있는 거 사주시고, We were ashamed. Oh, no way. But you know what? When the God hired the people in the workers market for His vineyard, He didn't ask anything. What did He ask them first? God, the vineyard, the owner said, hey, what are you doing here? God knows because their market, daily workers gather together to get a job. So they know it, but He just confidently asking, hey, why are you here? He knew it. This is like the same voice like we talked last week, Genesis chapter 3. When Adam and Eve, they fell into sin, God asked them, hey, where are you? He knew it. But He asked her to say honestly, hey God, I am sinner. But they say, we hide it. No, don't look at me. Why us? Because you only 2 people in the world. Because God created only Adam and Eve, right? Today, they said, yeah, we need a job. Nobody hired. So we need a job. He said, okay, are you good at picking the grapes? Are you glad? Are you experienced? He never asked. Just pick those people because they need a job. 오늘 말씀에서 하나님께서 이 사람들을 조건 없이 택했다는 것을 우리는 기억해야 돼요. 무엇이냐면은 너희가 포도원에서 일할 만큼 경험이 있니? 경력이 있어? 잘해? 요령 피지 않고 일을 잘하니? 아니 거기 또 다른 사람들도 있는데 같이 협력해서 일할 자신 있어? 이런 거 묻지 않으셨습니다. 포도원 주인이 물은 것은 일할 자리가 필요하니? 가자. 이것이 바로 하나님께서 우리를 향한 마음이에요. 무언가 잘해서 무언가 바라보시고 하는 것이 아닙니다. Just he was checking our condition. 우리의 상황을 보시는 거예요. 그리고 그것을 주시기 위해 부르신다는 것입니다. 이것이 바로 넉넉하고 풍성한 하나님의 모습을 예수님께서 말씀해 주시고 있다는 거예요. 하나님이 This is God. Right? He only cares. Oh wow. He are poor. They are poor. She is, Bible says, they are, all people in the market, wow, they need a job. And then God said, let's go. Come with me. So it means that, wow, this is who God is. Jesus wants to tell this God. And the last, 세 번째입니다. 하나님은 예수님 무엇을 말씀하고 싶냐면 이거예요. 바로 하나님 보시기에 충분한 은혜를 주신다는 거예요. When God sees us, the grace He is giving us is enough to us. He knew that. That's enough. 자, 왜 이런 말씀을 하느냐? 잘 보세요. 아침에 일하는 사람이 있어요. 오후에 일할 사람이 있어요. 점심에 일하러 온 사람이 있어요. 오후에 그 사람들은 계속 마켓에 있던 사람인데, 자, 처음에 아침에 왔을 때 예수님이 다 데리고 갔을 거예요. 그 바이니아드 오너가 다 데리고 갔어요. 근데 또 나와서 봤더니 또 있는 거예요. 또 데리고 갔어요. 또 봤더니 또 있어요. 이 말은 when the people they need the job and money, they come to market. And God said, okay, I'll give you one denarius. They say, yes, I'll come to you. I'm with you. I'm working for you. Okay, come with me. Come with me. Come with me. Jesus knew that they need one denarius. Even though in the 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they need the one denarius. It means that God knows what they needed. 자, 근데 여기서 문제가 생기죠. The people who came early, he complains. God, it's not fair. It's not fair. How could you give the same wage to people because we all work at different hours? I worked all 3 days, from the early morning to 6 o'clock to 6 p.m. You are indoor, you are in your place and house, but I worked outside during the 8-day noon. Yeah. And then he said, what did you get then? You received as much as you needed. You received as much as you are supposed to receive. I want you guys to focus that as much as you are supposed to receive. It means 하나님께서 보셨을 때 충분하다는 거예요. 만약에 그 사람들이 일한 만큼, if God, the owner of the vineyard, he was considering how much they needed, so one denar is enough. But if he was considering how many hours they work, it might be different result. But what the owner of the vineyard, he was considering is what they needed. And God, He did not really count how many hours they worked. Their productivity or their cooperation ability, their working ability, or their communication ability or leadership, whatever they did it, He did not care. He just gave them out. The one denarion. He did not count the consequence of their labor. Because He is enough to give them out, one denarion, every one person. This is our God. But Lord, come to us. But how about us? We are complaining. Let's compare, the story, the Genesis chapter 3 we talked the last Sunday. Isn't it pretty the same? They enjoyed the life in Garden of Eden with God, and they enjoyed it. They worked at it. And they received daily blessing from God because they walked in the garden together with God. But once they listened to the voice of Satan, the voice of the manipulation, the voice of trick, same this situation. The worker, in the way early morning came, they said, right, I'd received the denarium, but why did you give just one denarium, same to the people who work just 1 hour? And they say, what's wrong with that? And didn't I say that? I say, I'll give you 1 denarium. I will give it to you 1 denarium. I did it. 이 말은 하나님께서 우리에게 예수님께서 얘기해 주신 게 있는 것 같아요. Through the parable, He described who God is, and then He's giving a lesson. This subject lesson to the receiver, and today us, we are church in Texas. He's talking, hey fellas, God He's enough to give you everything. But why are you complaining? Your eyes, where is your eyes? Where are you looking at? God who is giving you grace, or comparing with others? 우리가 알아야 될 게 무엇이냐면은, 자, 오늘은 we came early in 6 o'clock, right? So we worked at 12 hours. 근데, how about tomorrow? The guy who came early in the 6 o'clock and he's worked off on the 6 o'clock, the 12 hours working, he's so tired. Tomorrow, he woke up so late, but he needed daily wages. And then he went to market at 5. The vineyard owner, will hire him or not? Yes, he will. Because he is enough to give them the wages, even though he works only 1 hour. But they do not remember. They do not know who God is. This merciful God is. His eyes on, this is not how we calculate. This is not how we figure out the money. This is not how we figure out the value. This is not how we figure out how we live in this world. We need this. You should do this, God. You should do this, God, Lord. Lord, why? This is not fair. When I read this passage back when I was in 7 or 8 years old, little boy, I was so afraid because God is not fair. I am the person very logics and calculated and think about productivity, considering the efficiency, think about the numbers. This kind of person will struggle to understand these messages. Hey, God, this is not definitely fair. But now, I receive it as a blessing, this message today. Because, yes, if I were late to the market, He will still hire me. He will still give me the same grace. And He will give us any grace without asking who I was. He called me my name as His friends and give us the daily bread. This is my God. I wish this is going to be your God. 하나님은 오늘 이 포도원 일꾼의 비유에서 하나님이 누구신가를 계속 말씀하고 계세요. 그리고 우리가 누구인지도 말씀하고 계세요. 우리의 개념과 생각으로 비교하고 누군가에 대해서 쉽게 말하고 심지어 하나님에 대해서도 이야기를 해요. 하나님, 이것은 공평하지가 않아요. 이것은 정의롭지가 않아요. 그런데 이미 우리는 그 정의롭지 못하고 공평하지 못한 상황 속에서 그 은혜를 받았던 사람이에요. 우리가 무엇을 잘해서 하나님께 은혜를 받고 삽니까? 우리가 얼마나 많이 일해서 하나님 보시기에 완벽하고 선하게 살아서 은혜를 누리며 삽니까? 우리는 이미 그 은혜를 받고 살아가는 사람들인데요. 예수님은 그것을 우리에게 말씀을 주시는 것 같습니다. So I want you guys to remember Jesus, He is saying that our God wants you and me to satisfy in Him only and give thanks to Him. 하나님께 감사하면서 살기를 소망합니다. Please make our daily lives with full of thanksgiving. He chooses you to give His grace. This is very basic knowledge. What's grace then? Grace is gift by work of Jesus Christ. 은혜는 예수님께서 십자가에 돌아가심으로 우리에게 주시는 모든 선물들이 은혜예요. 그 말은 우리가 예수님의 자녀로 살아가면서 누리는 모든 특권이 은혜예요. All the life, every single day, that is the privilege as a living as a Christian by His blood on the cross. That's grace. 자, 여러분들 오늘 말씀을 기억하시면서 이것을 기억하면서 살았으면 좋겠습니다. 이제 서머라이즈를 한번 해보겠습니다. Thus, 하나님께 택함받은 우리는 교회는 먼저는 하나님의 은혜는 언제나 우리에게 준비되어 있음을 기억하고 있는 모습 그대로 하나님께 나아가 부어주시는 은혜를 사모하며 주어진 삶 속에서 감사의 마음으로 살아갑니다. 자, in English. As God's children, we are church. Know that His grace is always ready and enough. And so we trust and remember that He will provide me His grace. He is a giver and we are a receiver. And makes our daily lives by give thanks to God. This should be our daily life.